everyone. I'm here at the 30th African Union Summit at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, convening from today, 15th February till 16th February. This is Dr. Shahidsiddiqui from WNN-ST, exclusive from Ethiopia. Here, leaders from all the 55 African Union member states are gathered here to address pressing challenges and opportunities for the continent. You can see at the background the chairman AU. He is addressing all the delegates, those who are present there, to discuss their issues. And this year, the theme of this summit is justice for Africans, justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. Discussions will be focused on advancing reparatory justice and racial healing, as well as accelerating the implementation of Agenda 2063.
Donc, je vous remercie.
Chairperson of the African Union also maintained 1 minute of silence before the opening this summit, and it was followed by the national anthem of the African Union, as well as the address of the dignitaries, that especially the Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretary-General, was there, that he conveyed the very strong message across all the African leaders that how to maintain.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen,
his address
may I humbly call all of you
in this discussion
for the African Union anthem. This was the African Union anthem, which was in the beginning of this summit, and it was followed by the several addresses of the African leaders, including the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. Your Excellency Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union,
especially from the
Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed,
who are present
Prime
at the
Minister
30th
of the Federal
African
Democratic
Union Summit in Addis
Republic
Ababa,
of Ethiopia,
they will be addressing
Your
critical
Excellencies,
issues
heads of
facing
state
Africa and its
and
role
governments
in the
of
world, and
African
discussion
Union
ranging from the economic
member
growth and
states.
security to the health and governance.
Your Excellency
But today we will
Musa
bring
Faki
you
Mohammed,
highlights from the United
Chairperson of the
Nations
African
Secretary-General Antonio
Union
Guterres'
Commission.
powerful address
Your
to the
Excellency
Assembly.
Mr. Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazin, President of the State of Palestine. Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary-General of the United Nations.
Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine, Excellences, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed.
Ethiopia. And he
President
emphasized in the
Mohammed
beginning about the
Ould
pressing global
Ghazwani,
challenges that we face today.
thank you for your
noted
leadership
that our world
in
is
the
facing
outstanding
unprecedented turmoil with the
exercise
deepening
of your
geopolitical
mandate.
divisions and escalating the
Presidente
conflicts
João
across
Lourenço,
regions, including the Middle
parabéns.
East and Ukraine.
E aguardo com expectativa a oportunidade de trabalhar consigo como novo Presidente da União Africana.
The Secretary-General praised the
I also
African Union's
want
theme of
to give a
2025,
very
justice for
special
Africans and
expression
the
of
people of
gratitude
African descent through
to the
reparations.
chairperson of the
He
African
stressed the
Union
importance of
Commission,
addressing historical
Musa Faki,
injustices rooted in African
for his 8
colonization.
years of strong and permanent commitment to multilateralism and impeccable cooperation with the United Nations. Cher Moussa,
Guterres also highlighted the
travailler
recent
avec
summit of
toi
the future, which
est un
resulted in a
privilège,
comprehensive pact aimed at tackling
un plaisir
development, peace and
et une honneur.
security, technology and global governance issues. He called for the urgent action to
Excellencies,
confront the dual
the
threats
partnership
of
between
climate change
the African
and
Union and the
unregulated
United Nations
artificial intelligence.
has never
With
been
a
stronger.
strong message of collaboration, Guterres
Together,
urged
we
the
see an
nations to
Africa
reform
booming with hope and
international institutions
possibility.
to better address the 21st century
You have
challenges.
a
He
booming,
emphasized that these
enterprising
issues are
population,
solvable if we work
including the
together to
largest
promote
number of young
sustainable
people in the
development
world.
and improve the quality of
The
life
African
of
Continental
all
Free Trade
Africans.
is poised to turbocharge the region's economy and calls to address the legacies of colonialism and slavery are growing louder, as reflected in your theme this year, and as reflected in the leadership of so many passionate voices for the liberation of Africa, such as the great Dr. Sam Nujoma of Namibia, whose life we celebrate and whose loss we mourn. The world must never forget that Africa is the victim of two colossal and compounded injustices. First, the profound impact of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. The roots stretch back centuries, and the bitter fruit continues to affect Africans and people of African descent to this day. Decolonization alone in itself was not a panacea. Political independence did not free countries from structures based on exploitation and decades of economic, social, and institutional underinvestment. It is high time for reparatory justice frameworks to be put in place. Second, Africa was under colonial domination when today's multilateral system was created, and that injustice endures. Look no further than the United Nations Security Council. There is no excuse that Africa still lacks permanent representation in the 21st century. I will keep working with the African Union and all member states to ensure the representation Africa needs and the justice you deserve, including with 2 permanent members of the Security Council. And we will keep pressing together for an international financial architecture that is no longer outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair. Correcting age-old injustices is essential to address here and now challenges. And the good news is that we have many of the solutions we need. Last year, you helped drive that effort at the United Nations with the Pact for the Future. And I thank Africa for its support that was vital to approve the Pact. Our task now is to make those commitments a reality. South Africa's G20 chairmanship could not come at a better time. Let me point to 4 areas for action. First, we must push for peace, security, and alleviating appalling levels of human suffering. Sudan is being torn apart before our eyes and is now home to the world's largest displacement crisis and famine. As we near the holy months of Ramadan, it is time for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And the international community must come together to stop the flow of weapons and the bankrolling of bloodshed. In the Democratic Republic of the Congolese people have been suffering yet again from a brutal cycle of violence. And the fighting that is raging in South Kivu as a result of the continuation of the M23 offensive threatens to push the entire region over the precipice. Regional escalation must be avoided at all costs. There is no military solution. The deadlock must end, the dialogue must begin, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the DRC must be respected. The conclusions of the recent joint EAC-SADC summit offer a way forward, with a renewed call for an immediate ceasefire and new momentum for regional efforts based on the Luanda and Nairobi processes. Now is the time for swift implementation. And you can count on the continued support of the United Nations, including MONUSCO. In the Sahel, the clear and present threat of terrorism is undermining peace, security, and sustainable development. And in Somalia, we are urging predictable funding for the African Union support and stabilization mission, and I hope that our voice will be heard by the Security Council. And as we gather here in Africa, I know all our minds are also very much on Gaza. A resumption of hostilities must be avoided at all costs. The Palestinian people have suffered too much. I welcome efforts by the parties to abide by the ceasefire agreement and urge action for a permanent ceasefire and the release of all hostages. Peace is possible in the Middle East, and that starts with tangible, irreversible, and permanent progress towards the two-state solution, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. Excellencies, on all fronts, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the African Union to advance security, stability, human rights, and rule of law. Excellencies, second, we must keep working together to deliver the AU 2063 agenda and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and drive action on finance. African countries pay up to 8 times more to borrow than developed countries, and 20 are in or at risk of debt distress. The Pact for the Future supports an international financial architecture reform to reflect today's economy, ensuring fair representation and urging effective action on debt relief. And I will stand with Africa as a matter of justice and to right the historic wrongs. Excellencies, third, the climate crisis. Climate disasters are tearing across Africa, destroying lives, upending livelihoods, devastating economies, and inflaming conflict. At the same time, the renewables revolution is unstoppable, and Africa is poised to become a global clean energy powerhouse. Yet, today, Africa receives just 2% of global renewables investment. Realizing Africa's potential requires access to affordable finance, including by implementing the COP29 finance decision fully and on time, and supporting development of roadmap to realize $1.3 trillion a year. Excellencies, Africa has contributed little to the climate crisis, yet is paying the price with record droughts, floods, and heat. Climate justice requires a massive investment in adaptation, with the international community bearing an enormous responsibility. Developed countries must double adaptation finance, and countries must significantly boost the loss and damage fund. Allow me a note. When the loss and damage fund was created, the pledging conference that took place has allowed for an amount that is equivalent at the highest contract for a basketball player in the United States. It is absolutely necessary to make the loss and damage fund an effective instrument to support developing countries in adaptation. And we also need justice when it comes to your abundant critical minerals. Too often, your countries are plundered, bound to the bottom of value chains as others grow rich on your resources. The work of the United Nations panel on critical energy transition minerals is designed to help embed justice, sustainability, and human rights across the value chain. Africa's minerals must benefit Africa's people. Excellences, enfin, nous devons agir dans le domaine des nouvelles technologies, notamment l'intelligence artificielle. Près de 2/3 de la population africaine sont privés d'un accès fiable à l'Internet. Nous avons une responsabilité historique, faire en sorte que l'intelligence artificielle profite à l'humanité tout entière et pas seulement à quelques privilégiés, États et compagnies. Le pacte numérique mondial partage les ambitions du pacte numérique africain. Connectivité universelle, renforcement des capacités et une gouvernance responsable de l'intelligence artificielle. Je présenterai bientôt un rapport sur les modèles innovants de financement volontaire et les initiatives de renforcement des capacités afin d'aider les pays du Sud global à exploiter l'intelligence artificielle pour le bien commun. Ensemble, assurons-nous que les promesses seront tenues. Excellence,
with a strong message of collaboration,
l'Union
Guterres
africaine
urged at the
et
end
l'ONU
all the nations to
sont
reform
unis et
international
déterminés à
institutions
rendre
to better
justice à
address the
notre
21st
continent
century
sans
challenges.
laisser
He also
personne de
emphasized
côté.
that these issues are
Nous
solvable if we
disposons
work
de
together
bases
to promote
solides pour aller de
sustainable
l'avant.
development and improve the quality
Alors,
of life for all
ensemble,
Africans.
concrétisons
Stay
ces
tuned for
engagements.
more updates from African Union
Et
Summit
permettez-moi
as
de
we
dire
continue
une
to bring
dernière
you
phrase
important
dans ma
developments
langue
live
maternelle.
from Addis Ababa. This is
Digamos
Shahidsiddiqui
com uma só
for
voz,
WNN-ST.
Viva África!